Hello and welcome. This is one of my 60 conversations to celebrate my 60th birthday, and I have the delight and pleasure today to be here with the lovely Martine Cannon, who I heard speaking at an event in Birmingham, the ultimate event in Birmingham, and I was blown away by what she shared on the stage. So I reached out to her and asked her if she would be one of my inspirational conversations, and she agreed. We've just had an amazing quick conversation before we started here, but I would love you, Martine, to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, because I don't know you all that well. I just know you're an inspiring lady. So let's go.
Thank you, Deb. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So a little bit about me. You heard me speak at the Ultimate Experience in Birmingham, and I spoke there primarily about some of the events which is unfolding for me being a mum of a beautiful teenage daughter. So primarily, first off, I'm a mum, and then alongside that, I've got a lifelong passion for learning, and I spend a lot of my time in executive coaching engagements. I really work with health, healing, and high performance for large multinationals, which is coaching CEOs and C-suite executives of the world's largest organizations. So
I mean, definitely for me, part of these conversations for me is like, that is worlds away from how I have lived my life. And just before we were talking about this, it's like, for me, reaching out to people who I would have put on a pedestal and kind of thought, well, you're some other kind of human being to me. My life, I don't do those things in my life. So there must be. But one of the things that I've really seen is that, no matter whether we put ourselves above somebody or below somebody, we are all human here, and we are all the experiences, what you shared. I've got 3 children. I've got 2 daughters and a son. Mine are all grown up. But equally, I could so relate to the things that you were sharing about your daughter. And my daughter's one of my daughters is coming up 40, and my other daughter is like 36, and then my son is 26, and it hasn't stopped yet. What you are sharing about your children, they're my children.
right. And that's I intentionally chose at that event to talk about what I call the hidden grace in struggle, because I think it's one of the things that all human beings share, is like, no matter who we are, what we have, what we don't have, where we're positioned in the world, we are going to encounter some sort of struggle. It's part of being human. And I think how we navigate that struggle and how we can live with it, work with it, stay connected with other people as we go through it is everything.
Yeah, I can really see that. And another thing that I said to you just before we got on this call was, for me, having these 60 conversations, actually reaching out and sending messages to people who inspired me to ask if they would have a conversation. And, in my head, it's like, will they have a conversation with just me? And then you see your own stuff in that, and you see that's another way, how do I deal with that? Right, okay, who am I being? Who am I creating myself to be? I am not less than anyone. I am just different to everyone, as we all are. And it is like, okay, just reach out and do this. And part of what you shared in the navigation of that, obviously I've navigated, I haven't brought up 3 children without navigating some stuff. And it's like, I can see where I navigated well and where I didn't navigate so well, and what I learned from that. So I would love you to share more about that, because I just think there is, like you say, the grace in how we do that, and the learning about who we are is huge.
Yeah, I think probably the core lesson, without going back into the whole keeping it generalized of moments of struggle, but the core thing that I've learned through that and many other really challenging life experiences is that there is a moment where you're at the height of the struggle. So, right up the top, you're at the peak of the struggle. And it's in that moment that we're actually least able to stay right where we are, feeling what we're feeling. And that's where we want to either get busy or collapse, or, open up the chocolate bar, or, completely disengage, whatever it is. But what I've discovered is, if you can really stay present in that moment at the peak of the struggle and support yourself in a way to stay regulated, which means to really stay connected with myself, not to try and escape what I'm feeling, not to create a story or a justification for how I'm feeling, but to stay right with it. And that takes a lot of openness and love and compassion of self, to accept that this is where I am. This is what my, my life is bringing for me right now. But I don't have to bring to it a whole story or an idea about what's going to happen or why did it happen or anything like that. But I can just stay close and open with myself and feel the love and compassion. And there's something extraordinary, which is why I called it grace, that happens in that moment, is if I stay still and silent and loving and compassionate, grace comes in. And grace can look like many different things. My heart can break open. It can break open to myself. It can break open to others. I can come up with a completely new way of navigating that tricky situation, which I would never have done previously, because I would have been in a fixated state telling myself, this is what you have to do. This is what you must do. This is what other people think of you. This is what, whatever it is. But actually, there is no grace in that. There's only habituation. There's only the ideas that I have. But in that moment of landing in the belly of my struggle, I contact my own wisdom. I contact my own, essence. And from there, life seems to reveal sometimes only the next step, the very next step that I need to take. It's not a whole plan out for the next 3 years. And for me, with my daughter, it was, the next step for me was to stop fighting her battle for her and to actually just be able to be with her. And that was so painful for me, because as a mum, you want to save your child. You want to prevent them from feeling the hurts and the pains and the unfairness of life, but you can't do it. But what you can do is be with yourself. And I could be with myself and I could be with her. And I remember that beautiful moment where both of us broke down at the same time. And you might otherwise call it weakness and say, as a mum, I should be the growing up one. But it was actually in this beautiful moment of both of us breaking down together and sharing the struggles that we have in life, human to human together, that from that we created an unbreakable bond, where now I know no matter what happens, if she's in an up or down, we have an unbreakable bond that we can talk about and be together in everything. And since that very moment, everything has changed with us.
Wow, there was so much in that. Yeah. I really, really see that is spoken about. What you described there is spoken about across so many spiritual teachings in so many different ways. And I think it is so beautiful how our stories and our personal stories really illustrate what that is, because what I was hearing in what you said was the surrender. It's just like, this is where I am. And I can see whether you put that onto something relatively small or whether it is, a huge thing. I went through a thing where my son he wanted to take his own life. And that was I had to surrender to what you're describing. It's like, and then equally, I can see with these conversations, it's no different when I was kind of thinking, right, I'll reach out to this person. And then my head starts making, I can't be with what I feel. I feel anxiety. I feel insecure. I feel, and can I just be with what I feel and allow what's going to happen next? Or do I have to create this story?
It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Especially when, the wisdom teachers of all the ages say, just surrender. The actual process, I'm sure you found this with your son, the process of actually surrendering, which says, I am willing to be with all of my anxiety right here, right now, which means we give up control.
Totally.
That's a cool thing, that our idea that we are in control gives us a different feeling. But to surrender that actually I might have intention. I have the intention to do something, to be a mum in a certain way, but actually beyond that, I don't have control over that. And that's a super tough place to surrender into, because it's like I am self-determining, but I'm not part of there's a much bigger ecosystem of which I'm being influenced and influencing. It's I don't know, a place of both determination and intentionality and surrender and reverence all at once.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And those moments are our greatest teachers, definitely, in kind of seeing that, you know, for me, I gave my son permission to do what he thought he had to do. And we literally, both of us in the same, like, we have an unbreakable bond because of that. And you know, later on, he just said to me, if you'd have tried to talk me out of it, I would likely have done it, but you gave me permission. And that was what, you know, was just like, okay. And oh my gosh, you know, even thinking
You
about
gave him
that.
permission to be who he was, and you didn't require him to be anyone else. And what, I mean, as a mum, what a generous, gracious gift you give him. It's like, you're perfect as you are, even in your ideation, you know, suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
I love you and accept you as you are, which it's for the other person's nervous system. It's like, oh God, there's nothing, there's nothing wrong over here. And that's where you get that, you know, in relation. So God, I love and adore you for what you did with him.
I mean, when I heard you speak, it was like you're having the same moment as I had with my son. And it is like, you can't describe to people what happens after that. And
No.
you know, like, what I know is what unfolds after that. And I know whatever had unfolded after that would have been an okayness
Exactly.
within it. And like, but we are just given a gift. Sorry, I was not quite expecting it, but never mind. Anyway, it is like, and so when you are trying to, like, when you went on that stage and we're trying to share with people what is the other side of this surrender, of allowing what is to be, there is something so precious and so beautiful. But it's like, you can't put words on it, because then the tendency to kind of, oh, so what I do in this situation then is this. And it's like, no. I'm not saying if someone's son comes to them, and I'm sure you're not saying, you know, someone's daughter is struggling in whatever way it is, look at what I did and copy what I did. It's not that. So share what you see around that.
It's so true, because that's it. It's your worst fear, isn't it? That someone's going to create a, you know, a 7-step out of it, and then miss the opportunity to have life touch them. And that's what I discovered. And you know, I saw it on the stage when I shared in front of 400 people what was deeply touching me in my life, or more than touching me, breaking me open, taking me back to, you know, the very basic thing of who I am as a human being and what I'm capable of. I think that for me is, you can't give that to somebody in steps. You can just encourage them in that moment, like saying the height of the struggle, belly of what I'm least willing and able to be with. And the first bit for me is be willing. Just even if it's starting off by saying, I'm willing to be with this right now, whatever it looks like, and signaling to your nervous system, it's okay, I can stay with this. Because often there's a younger child part of us that many years ago experienced very similar, it might be a completely different event, but the feeling for me of overwhelm and you know, lack of control. I remember that from being a child. I remember it, you know, when my mum and dad split and my dad left, and my mum was really, really down and depressed. And I felt the need to kind of support her and control the environment and make it okay. So that same thing popped up with my daughter when she started, you know, self-harming. Then it was like, I can't control the situation. So it's like an echo from the past. So if you can signal as an adult to your nervous system, I'm willing to be here right now, there's something there that allows us to not have to repeat the past. We hear the echo of the past, but I don't have to be controlled by the echo. I can land right in it now as the mature 49-year-old woman that I am, and say, I have the resources now just to stay, even if it's 10 seconds more, and my heart open and breathe. And, you know, if it's connect with people around me, whatever it is, just to stay a little bit longer. And each time you stay a little bit longer, life will touch you more and more and more. And each, for me, it was like it escalated. It got more and more and more intense. I can't stay. I can't stay. And then it was like almost as if my heart just completely broke open as I surrender. That to me was I surrender, because I got inside of it. There is just goodness. There is just love inside of the heart of the pain. It's actually love. And some would describe it as a spiritual experience or a spiritual awakening. I think it's just being willing to be right where you are and be touched by what's coming. Yeah.
Yeah. And that experience of, I think, when we get to a place of fear and insecurity and want to run away for whatever reason, it is we fear what is going to be there. And my experience was the same. Actually, it is just intense love.
Yes. Yeah. It's fierce love, and there's something that's so right, that your love is so fierce that you want to do everything to protect the other person, and you can't. And there's something about also liberating their journey as well, to if I know that all of life's goodness and love and aliveness and awakeness comes from being able to be in my own suffering, that's actually what wakes me up to my whole self. Why would I want to take that from anyone else? You gave the gift to your son of exactly the same thing, that if you can stay, then you signaled him he can stay too. That there's nothing that is wrong, and there's nothing that we can't stay with and discover in the midst of it. There is just love.
Yeah. And you can really see in this that our greatest freedom is the other side of our greatest fears, because our greatest fears are staying with these feelings. And I said, whether they're the smallest or whether they're the biggest, it is this whole, like you say, the reflections of these things in many things on a day-to-day basis. It will be like, oh no, I'm not, no, I won't do that, because what will that person think? Or any kind of form of that keeps us imprisoned here and doesn't allow life to live fully through us. It doesn't allow us to open up to what is possible when we stay in that feeling of we have to be in control in that way. Because that's all it is. Like when we get insecure and anxious, it's like, well, I can't reach out to Martine and ask her if she'll speak to me on YouTube, because what if she ignores me, or what if she says no? What will that, I can't bear that feeling, so I'm not going to do it. And yet, what is the other side of it? And I found, like, in these huge things that we're describing, and also in the small things, when some of the people that said no, or some of the people who just ignored my messages, then I noticed where I went to, and the learning in that for me too. It's like, some of it would be, oh well, they're a horrible person, I don't want to speak to them at all. And it's like, really, really, is that it? Or are you not prepared to sit with again, what is truly going on here for you? Are you not prepared to look at that and face it and see, actually, that is a perfectly beautiful person who's doing amazing things in the world, which is why you reached out to them. They have a life, they're potentially busy, when we just
number of different things could be going on, couldn't it? There's some sort of there's such a preciousness that we hold over our identity, the sense of self, of who we are. And to me, it's extraordinary how much effort goes into maintaining this idealized image of ourselves. And it's exactly like you're describing, like, who am I going to be if I ask them to speak to them and they reject me and don't come back to me? Then who does that make me? And you're saying, higher, lower, it makes me somehow lower. And then how painful that is to feel that I'm somehow lower than someone else. But it's never actually the case, is it? It's just that we're constantly checking out, is this sense of self that I've created intact? Is it under threat? Is it better or worse? How much energy goes into maneuvering this constantly? It's laughable at the end of the day. And this, part of what we're doing in that being movement a couple of days was just helping to remind people that we have this idea of who we are inside of our heads that has been constructed over our history, but actually we can be self-determining in a way and say, I want to be intentional about how I create myself to be, which is actually, for me, it's two heaps. There's the heap of judgments and ideas that I have about how I should be, ought to be, must be, etc. And then there's the ones that I create myself. Is this who I want to be in the world? I'm a loving mum. I'm whole. I'm, loyal. I'm whatever it might be. And just reminding myself of that I'm also all of those things all of the time, if my conscious awareness is on that. But if my conscious awareness is on heap number one over here, then I'm living out of the idea about what I'm not and where I need to get to. But essentially it's getting back to something rather than to the place where I actually connect with my highest essence, my highest qualities of who I generously want to become for myself and for others. So yeah, it's part of your describing again the human condition. It's like innately it's built in. Those judgments are built in for us. And what you've been doing is not being run by them. You say, oh, there you go. There's that thing saying, I can't reach out to that person. I can't do that, but I'm not willing to be run by that. I'm going to step forward and take action on this because I'm celebrating my 60th and I'm going to speak to the 60 most inspiring people that I can find because that's who I am. Somebody who asks, makes big requests.
Yeah, and that I really see that in the value in that of creating those statements about who we are, because one of my statements is I am fearless, and that definitely, and they feel to me like seeds that we plant somehow. So then, when I have the idea to do something and then I just think, no, I won't. And it's really revealed to me how cleverly it doesn't kind of just say, oh no, you're too scared, you won't do that, which I would just go, well, no, I'm not scared. It kind of says, oh, you're a little bit busy today, or but you've got to do this. This is more important in this moment. And it looks really real, the reason why I wouldn't do it. And I can really sort of, and I can buy into that. But having, listening every single day to the statement that I am fearless, this little, that plant is definitely growing. And then, it's like somebody over here kind of says, well, actually, I don't think you're too busy to send one message and you said you were fearless. Are you or not? And it gives you something else. Who is it you want to, how do you want to live into this? What is it you want to do? And then there becomes a moment of choice. And whereas before, when I didn't have that statement, as I said, it wouldn't appear in my mind and kind of go, oh, well, you're a scaredy cat, you're not going to do it. It would just be like, well, you've got 10 other things that you should be doing first, and you're really, really busy. So maybe we can get around to that tomorrow. But no, it's just fear. You don't want to do this because you don't want to open yourself up for a possibility of feeling a way you don't want to feel. And it really comes back around to everything you're describing. And it's like life is going to give you that, whether you orchestrate it by sending this message or whatever. Life is going to give you that. And if you learn to be with yourself.
Right, Deb. And it will take you back to that. Say whatever feeling you're avoiding, life will take you right back to it. And I say life takes us back to it. It's actually our soul's journey. Our soul innately wants us to evolve and be our highest potential and essence in this lifetime. So these things they're in the unconscious. They have to come up from the unconscious and become conscious to become integrated inside of us. So it's not life sending it to me. It's my own evolution drawing up from my unconscious that which needs to be digested and integrated so I can become a bigger, richer, more expansive, whole human being, because that's all of who I am. So it's kind of, to me, it's a blessing now that every single negative feeling and emotion that comes up is serving my evolution. Everything. It's like I don't know, I can see it differently. It's like, oh, there's the next thing that's coming up from the unconscious to be metabolized. Great, bring it on, because in this lifetime, I want to digest as much stuff from the unconscious as possible. That's a life well lived.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And you can, again and again, as I said, you know, that our greatest freedoms are on the other side of our greatest fears. And
Yeah.
every time we hide, or you know, we run
Yeah.
scared, or we don't face it or anything, it
Yeah.
is definitely going to come back around. Like you say,
Exactly.
to me, you know, there is only oneness here. So it is my inner being that is
Yeah.
calling me to this. It's not somebody or something who is against me that is calling
No,
me to
no,
this. It is
no,
for me. Like you say, it is a gift. And so
exactly.
each time we run away, it's like, oh yeah, you're just going to run away today, but tomorrow or next week or in a minute or whatever, you're going to be asked to feel that. And it is a little bit like, we begin to see that all of these things are like the monsters under the bed. You know, when we were a kid and we were lying in bed and it's like, oh, I can't get out of bed because there's a monster under there. And when we look, it's just dusty old boxes and cobwebs or anything. There's nothing bad
Exactly.
there. And it's a similar thing, isn't it? When we actually, because even what I heard in what you shared, which as again, you know, really opened up the memories for me, it's like, when we are prepared to go to our worst possible nightmare thing and be with it,
Yeah.
we see the way out. That
Exactly.
was what I saw. And and I know, in describing that to some people, you know, some people have said to me, I can't believe, you know, that's where you went to. But it was just like, it just looked so obvious to me in that moment when I was sat on it. He just needs permission.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's it. And logically, you know,
Mm.
if I'm sitting, or if we're just having a conversation about that, I am going to scream and kick and go, no, 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 no. But the gift in that moment, like you say, when we just sit with it, and
And if you do that for another person, it's a profound gift, because what you're doing is co-regulating. As I'm able to surrender and be where I am, my nervous system becomes regulated. Then I become a resource anchor for the other person that I'm with, in this case for your son. So his nervous system, which wasn't able to cope with what he was experiencing, would have felt, because we regulate together, human beings regulate off and, you know, with one another.
yes, the
His
energy.
nervous system would have regulated based on yours. So it's that thing as well. You know, when we're coaching people, we can't coach anyone beyond the stage that we've integrated in ourselves. So as a parent, the best thing you can do is not do things for them. It's to be the wholest, most integrated, regulated resource state for them to grow up in, the field that they can grow up in. Because then it's like, you can go off and do whatever you want. And it's not that I endorse going off and, you know, my daughter doing everything that she would otherwise want to do. It's like, I don't endorse it, but if she does, you know, if she does experience tough times, then I'm a resource state for her.
Yeah.
Not through my wisdom, but through the integrated human being that I am, and the regulated state that I can provide for her to come back to safety and regulation herself. So
I
yeah,
mean, that is the truest wisdom we can, that is the wisdom that we all can. I mean, like knowledge and wisdom of things, I mean, that's useful.
right.
But what you are describing, that is an innate, that to me is innate wisdom. That is something that every human being, no matter what what our intellect, you know, how clever or not clever we are, we can all do that, become that regulated person who stands in that love. Because one of the things that I have really seen through this, you know, one of the ways that I would speak about it, and through the experiences of my life, is I really see that the strongest energy wins. And what you were describing there, this is like, yeah, if I lose my shit in these moments, we all lose it. And then it is, but actually, if I can tune into the deeper truth of who I am and become that regulated, you know, whatever words you put on it. Yeah, if I stand strong in that, then I am like a lighthouse in a storm.
Exactly.
Whether it is with coaching clients, my kids, my partner, whatever it is, if I can become that. And so in one sense, to me, the whole, everything that the being movement represents, and everything, you know, that I come to the being movement through the three principles and the spiritual teachings. I love spiritual teachings. That's my jam. That's what I love to do. And it's like, well, I see that's the basis of what is being pointed to.
Yes.
Deeper truth, and really standing in that and being that in those moments.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And the highest teachings are, I mean, we call it oneness, but we are all one. They are the highest teachings, but in moments of fear, we don't take ourselves to be part of a united, perfect, loving, whole state. We take ourselves as being, I'm alone, I'm scared, I'm fearful. And that's, all the spiritual teachings point to this thing. You take yourself as being a separate sense of self. And in a separate sense of self, there is only pain and suffering. So the journey back to wholeness, like in a really practical, grounded way in life, is the journey back into being able to be right where I am. If I can be right where I am, I somehow feel the experience that actually I'm in my environment right now. I'm not a separate sense of self. The fear is not overtaking me. I can just feel I am where I am. I can look outside. I can see the trees. I can see the sun. I can hear the birds. And things start to calm down. And then I can reconnect as well with other people. So I reestablish my sense of belonging. Because that's, I think, so much of the time when we're fearful, we don't feel our belonging. We don't feel our sameness with other people. We don't feel our right to be exactly as we are, how we are, that we're perfect. So, yeah, I love, like you, I've been spiritual teachings are the foundation of what I've spent most of my life really practicing.
Yeah.
And bringing it into day-to-day life, to me, is the most important journey that I'm here to do, is how to live.
The thing that makes the most sense to me is the absolute practicality in it.
Yep.
It's like when I first came across the principles, my first experience of anything.
Deb, can I pause you? My daughter's just come to the door and she's ringing. So just give me 1 sec.
Absolutely.
Apologies. So sorry.
No worries at all. No worries. Real life. Yeah. Yeah, for me, the reason that I'm so interested in this is the absolute practicality of it. It's all very well speaking about beautiful spiritual things, but when I first came to the principles, I had not long gotten out of a very abusive relationship, and my 3 children were really struggling. I did not know which way was up. And I came across the principles, and for me, if it hadn't have been, I was up to here with breathing techniques and what you do when this happens and how you should be with this, and trying to do all of this stuff, and to try and parent my children. And then I came across the principles. It's like, I don't need another how you do this. I really don't need it. And then just beginning to see that surrender, that no, this is, you belong to something that is, you are an integral part of something that is so much greater, that has you in these moments. You do not have to think this through, worry this through, work it out, be on your own struggling with it. This has got you. And then, yeah, exactly. So the absolute, if this wasn't practical in real life, in real moments, then it wouldn't be something I'm interested in. But I can see, it was the thing that helped me. When I look at all sorts of things that have gone on with all 3 of my children, it's like, this is the thing that got me through.
Yeah.
And very, very much, when you describe that sense of belonging, because I can see my insecurity is people won't like me. What's that based in?
Right.
If you don't like me, I'm on my own. I have to work this all out on my own. If you think I'm great, then brilliant, you'll help me and whatever. If you don't like me, and so then I have to be somebody who you like, and then I'm trying to control. And it's like, oh.
And that is, I mean, for me, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think we all know this thing about belonging. We have different versions of how we need to be to belong. But the pain in trying to be a certain way is extraordinary. And how many of us are going around day to day trying to be smarter, funnier, happier, brighter, more likable, in order to be who we think we need to be in this world. And what we do is we deny the fact that the day we were born, we belonged. And the greatest path we can ever do is share the unique essence and quality of who we are with the world. But it can be a confusing place to be in a world where we're signaling all the time about what's the right way to be, what clothes there are to wear, the right gender, whatever it might be. It's a tough journey, I think.
Yeah, trying. I heard somebody use this word, and it really resonated with me. It said, over those years, like, we are born belonging. Absolutely. We are not born judgmental. We are not born believing we don't belong. We demand from our mother whatever we want by the way we scream, and we don't have any problem with that when we're born. But we learn over time, and I heard somebody refer to it, we create a lie identity for ourselves. And it's like, yeah, it's how we are not good enough, how we're not tall enough, not short enough, not fat enough, not thin enough, not pretty enough, not good enough, not whatever. And we create ourselves a identity, and then we spend our time trying to live into that so that we can fit in. And to me, the whole what the being movement and creating the statements, they are looking more deeply at the truth of who I am, coming past that identity, and even past who I think I should be.
Glad you said that bit, because I think that's really important, because a lot of people, when they're starting out in the being movement, try and create from the place of who they think that they should be. So that it's just one step forward from these judgments about how I shouldn't be to then how I should be. And I'm going to create a whole set of statements about who I am as how I should be. But you're indicating it's something else entirely different or beyond that.
Absolutely, because as I said, I can't remember who it was, but it wasn't, and it's not even someone who's in the being movement. But anyway, they described it as, we start with a lie identity, and then we move on to a my identity, and then we come to this deeper truth of who we actually are. And that, I'm not religious, but I love the Bible studies, and some of what is pointed to in there. I mean, that's like love and trust. And so to me, what I call it my soul contract. I had soul contract, but I've had one for a long time, way before I'd heard of the document. And to me, that's what it is. But it is, and that's what I mean. It's not my identity. It's not my identity. It's not my identity. It is who God created me to be, in the words I would use. But it is this deeper spiritual truth of who we all are.
Right. And that's really interesting, because that requires us to be open and to be listening for who am I really? When I'm outside of all of the ideas of who I take myself to be, what I'm met with is a moment of, this is who I am now, and this is who I am now, and this is who I am. Like, life is literally revealing itself through us in our day-to-day work, and whether we're a mum or whether we're coaching CEOs or whatever it is, we're discovering in that moment, when we're free of all of these judgments, I call them veils, we discover who we really are. And there's that beautiful dance between intentionality there, where I can intend to be something, and then I'm also becoming something in each moment, which for me, I'm most alive and awake when I recognize this is who I am right now. So it's this sort of dance between knowing at my core nature, my core essence, these are the qualities that is in this personal consciousness, but also that it's co-emerging with something else that is divine nature, that is wanting to be known by us. Like, it's wanting to express itself through us. And that doesn't exist in our thoughts and ideas. It's completely fresh and brand new in every moment. And we get to experience it. We get to have a life of experiencing. This is how life is expressing itself through me in this moment. It's extraordinary. It really is.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, I've got tingles. The extraordinariness of that is unbelievable. And even in those moments, like, I really, really see some of my deepest sufferings were actually, they are some of the most beautiful moments because of the rawness and how everything, nothing else can stand when you're in those moments, and the love and the connection that you see, I don't even know, I can't even put words onto it,
Right, and that's it.
it's
You can't put words on it because it's beyond words. It's something else far beyond it. I
Mm.
remember, Deb, when during COVID, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and I was at the time I was so busy. I was running online workshops for executive groups around the world. I was homeschooling my daughter at the same time. It was kind of a crazy period, and I knew I wasn't well. Something was telling me, like niggling at me, but because the NHS was overloaded and they were saying, don't go and see doctors unless you absolutely have to, I put it off. And then I went midway through a day, halfway through running a workshop at lunchtime, I said, I've got to nip to the doctor, see someone. And immediately it was obvious to them that I had a tumor on my cervix. And I remember that moment like it was yesterday, because I literally stopped in my tracks and had almost no idea of how to comprehend or understand what was happening. It was really the shock trauma moment. But after a period of, like, I stopped everything that I was doing, and I was sitting outside, and a friend had come over and they were coaching me through it. And I remember having the conversation with him where he was saying, Martine, how are you going to do this? Like, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I've spoken to a couple of friends of mine, and this is the worst case scenario about what you go through if you have cancer. Your hair drops out, you have all of these things going on. And a girlfriend had said to me, the worst thing that happens is your fingernails rot, and the smell of it and the look of it is something that's beyond belief. And I remember in that time saying to him, when he said, how are you going to go through this? And I said, I can do it. I absolutely know I can do it. And he said, I know you can do it, but my question is, how do you want to go through it? And I had almost got myself into a state of like push, where I was going to muscle my way through this as if I had all the resources, I had all the willpower, I had all the determination. I was in a place of rigidity. And when he asked that question, the how, I was like, what do you mean the how? How can I choose that? And I was looking out at the clouds outside, and my daughter and I used to play this game when we were young, cloud watching, and we'd see animals in the sky. And it came to me in that moment out of nowhere. It's like, I want to go through this cloud-like, because clouds change constantly. You never know what they're going to do. One day they're there, one day they're not. I don't know where that idea came from. It didn't come from me. I'm going to be cloud-like. So from that day on, it was like, right, the issue I had was I had a cloud and I'm cloud-like. And I began to think about and reflect constantly about the changeability of life and the completeness of a weather system, and contemplate on that. 5 weeks later, when I went to have the procedure done, the first procedure, it was in spontaneous remission. So I don't know what you call that. I call that grace as well. But I did exactly like you were saying, whereas I let go of the idea that I knew, the way I needed to be and the way that things needed to go. And I opened myself up again to all of life's grace and mysteries, and in a way to say, just do your thing and work through me. And holding that really high vibration, it's like, I have no idea what's going to happen in life. I really don't. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to do anything. I'm still going to go to the doctors, and I'm still going to, do everything that you do. But there's a difference between, having a diagnosis and a prognosis. Prognosis is on our side. My prognosis, I'm going to be cloud-like, because I really trust that all of life, and all of nature is good and kind and loving. This is a beautiful place. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And you can see the yielding there to whatever it is, the power behind life, whatever that is, if we don't, like you say, if we have this idea, I can see that I lived so much of my life like this, and
Yes.
I'm doing it. And it's like, yeah, that total yielding. And when we say words like surrender and yield, they almost come with connotations of weakness and giving up and those kinds of things. But actually, that is one of the strongest things that we can do, because it is literally leaning into this power that everything we have been talking about is kind of describing the immenseness of this power that is just beyond anything. And it is within all of us. It is not separate from us. It is not something that is out there doing something. It's something that we are, the power is both within us and we are within that power.
Yeah.
And so an allowing, a yielding to that, whatever the end result is, it's going to be beautiful. And I think that, you know, it's easy to hear these stories and then kind of think, oh, okay, I will do that, so I get this outcome. And it's like, it's not, there's something deeper in it than
There
that.
is no doing of life. There is only being in life, being in the flow and the river of life. And I keep using words saying, let it touch you, because I can't think of any other way to describe what it takes to stand in the middle of your life and let everything be exactly as it is. And when you do that, life has a chance to touch you because it penetrates the ideas. It's like the ideas somehow keep us separate from the embodied experience. And I don't know about you, but it's really been it's most evident to me when life stops me dead in my tracks and there's a moment of silence where I stop, and it's as if for the first time ever I'm actually really listening. I'm listening to something in, above, and beyond me. But it's really, I know that thing now. It's like, stop. Oh, now I'm really here. Now I'm really listening. Now I'm really opening to it. And that's, a state for me that I try and cultivate all the time. Like, can I really stop and learn? Can I really slow down and be right here? Can I really be right here with you? Because something of the quality changes. And then I'm awake to that I'm a part, we're a part. We're connected, we're separate, but we're connected here, but in the midst of this mystery. So,
Yeah.
and I think for many people, it's a paradox, really, isn't it? It's like and that's one of life's greatest lessons. Again, is the ability to be in paradox, to be a separate, self-determining human being. So to be intentional in my life, but to know that I'm not that, and I never have been separate. And to accept that I'm part of a greater wholeness or oneness, without collapsing into an either or. If we can do that, if we can kind of titrate this thing of being in both of those, but not fully identifying with being a separate, self-determining sense of self, then you've got the best chance of being integrated.
It definitely is a mystery and a paradox that we both intimately know and have no idea about.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is finding our way. And it is like the minute you think you've got it, the minute you think you've seen
Right.
something or got something, it's like, no, if you settle for that, you're settling for less than what is. And again, you're setting yourself, you're solidifying something cloud-like. It's like, no, it's not, it is that, and it's not that. And so it is one of the most difficult things to express and talk about and share. And yet when we come together like this, we all have the knowing. It's within everyone. And I know certainly for me, one of the things I would do think, oh, people won't understand, and it won't, and I don't know how to put it in words. And yet we all in that room, when you shared what was really raw and real for you in that moment, I don't think there was anyone in that room who didn't identify with that in some way, like the whole, when that thing when it says read the book about you, I don't think there was anyone in the room who didn't hear something about themselves when we really get into the raw things.
Yeah.
And then our head can come back in and we can think, oh, does it mean this or does it mean that? But in those moments, we were all like broken open and we saw something. And I guess then we try to express it and we try to share and we try, and there is, you know, the power in what you shared was beautiful. It is inspiring. And there definitely is a way that we connect and know that. But also, yeah, the paradox of it is we can't speak about it and we can't share it. And yet we speak about it all the time and share it beautifully.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think you're spot on there. It's like we can feel. That's the one thing that we share as human beings is we can, when somebody opens up to the truth of a feeling, it automatically everyone opens up to the truth of that feeling. So I think we speak our truth through our heart. So we can speak, you know, knowledge from our head, but our truth, we speak from our heart. And it's not, it's different. It's got a different energetic channel when we're speaking through our heart, and we know it. Other people, when you hear somebody's truth through their heart, we know it. We don't understand it. We know it directly, which is what happened in that room in Birmingham. And if there's people who are wondering, you know, what is this? What is it that happened in Birmingham? What was this talk? I think there's a recording coming out soon, slightly edited version of it, but I think it will be coming soon.
And yeah, and I think, you know, there's no need to think, did I miss out? You know, if you were in the room and you heard it, brilliant. But I think there has been a huge amount of what was shared captured here. It is just that, yeah, you know, what you have described so beautifully is just being with that feeling. And very, very much, I really, you know, when you were saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, I run away from that feeling so often. And in the moments when I make the decision, and that, you know, I can really see with my soul contract, with that, just, yeah, I'm not being someone who runs away from that. That's not who I'm going to be.
Right.
And just knowing that, then it presents itself in the moment. Do you want to run? Are you sure you want to run and hide here?
And the beauty of that, I find with all my clients and people that I work with, that strategy of, let's say, running away because I was scared or fearful, made sense at one moment in time. And it was absolutely right at one moment in time. But it's not, you know, whether it be 20, 30, 40 years later, it's no longer the right action because I now have new resources that are available. So this going back to this thing, it's like, for me, whatever shows up, whether it be anxiety or whether it be fear or nervousness or whatever it might be, it's like the reaction and the response that I have, I can love and appreciate it. It's like, God, of course, you know, I learned that.
Yeah.
I learned that survival strategy, that survival mechanism that got me through a really tough time when I was young. So honoring those survival strategies and like giving them a place in, you served a purpose rather than making it wrong. So a lot of times people are trying to make it wrong. Like, I shouldn't be this way. I shouldn't be fearful. I shouldn't be running away. Well, actually, that had a place, a time and a place that made sense at the time and needs to be honored. And then it can stay part of us. I don't have to eliminate it and sort of put it outside of like, this is, I am my statement here and this is outside over there. It's like, no, I honor that is also a part of me, but it no longer needs to run me, which is different. But the only way it can't run me is if I'm willing to feel it now, because I couldn't feel it then when I was a kid, but I can now. And that's integration. And that takes work working with professionals to help hold, you know, they have to have a bigger a capacity to hold, to help you regulate and integrate than what you had, that, you know, that you currently have. So that's, you know, for anyone who's doing this work with other people and coaching, supporting therapists, etc., it's such a profoundly important capacity to be able to hold this space for people to integrate those young parts that are now ready to grow up, so that we can see our anxiety or our fear for what it was back then, but not be run by it.
And you can see that's the aliveness of who we are in the moment, isn't it? allowing it's like, yeah, who I was then, we're never wrong. It's not about, and even, you know, even if I run now, it's not wrong. It's just like, oh, okay, okay. And to me, it just gets revealed to me. As I said, you know, just, it felt like I just had this idea, wow, I'm 60, I'll have these 60 conversations. And again, that you can see that all of these things are a call from within us, because then it was like, okay, so you're going to reach out to people. And there were definitely some people who it was really easy for me to reach out, and I pretty much knew they would say yes. And then it was like, okay, yeah, and it's okay, you're seeing this person, you'd love to message them and say, you know, this is how you set it up, this is what you wanted to do, will you do this? And it all looks like a safe playground for me, and if I want to continue to run, that's okay, it's perfectly okay, it's not. But then equally it is, I know my interest is growth. I know that, you know, one of the reasons that this idea was planted within me, and this is everything we're saying, you know, we are drawn towards things that are of interest to us. And I know I am putting it out there. I want to grow, I want to learn, I want to be more. So obviously, great idea, looks like a really great idea, do this. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh. But the growth in that, the opportunity, and the opportunity to watch myself run and go, oh yeah, that's who you have been, and not make it wrong. Like you say, it's never, this isn't to me about judgment in that sense. It's the revealing of it. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't realize I did that, and there is something I do. And also the criticism of people, you know, I noticed if somebody did, for whatever reason, say no or ignore the message, the criticism, you know, what would go on inside me, the judgment of it's like, oh yeah, that's something. And again, you know, that's not, and you're a bad person and you shouldn't. It's just like, oh, interesting. And is that who you want to be? Is there now something else that can be in place of that? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And the judgments, whether they be judgments of self or judgments of other people, if you dig one layer beneath it to what am I feeling as I'm doing it,
Yeah,
you'll get to the part that you're least willing to be with. And I mean, what a gift. I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to look anywhere for my development. It's right under my nose.
yep, it's right there.
And there's nothing to change. Like I don't need to like get 7 steps around, you know, overcoming judgment. All I need to do is like, oh, there's that part of me, the judging self. And then what does it feel like? You know, how does it feel for me as I'm in judgment? Oh, I'm feeling slightly insufficient in some way. Oh, where is that in the body? Oh, that's here around my heart. It's a protective case around my heart. Oh, I can feel that. I can be loving and compassionate with that. Go, yeah, there we go. I can stay with that now. That's a younger part of me that built a little wall around my heart because it felt that I wasn't enough or that others were judging me. And now I can stay with that little part and comfort her and connect with her and let her know it's okay. And then the miracle happens, like all of a sudden, this aliveness starts to come out of my heart. Like I want to be out and I want to play with other people. I want to call them and I want to speak to them. Not just one, I want to speak to 60 of them because I want to play and I want to learn and grow. But it's like this beautiful thing around, we have to cycle around the hurt parts to come out to a more whole part of us.
Absolutely,
Perfect
absolutely.
design.
Yeah, it is such a perfect design, isn't it? And you can see that every part of it is just a gentle invitation to a gift. And it is like, yeah. And we can refuse gifts or refuse invitations if we want to. And it is like,
Exactly.
to me, I see I've been invited and gifted many, many times. And sometimes I've said no. And then it's like, no, okay, I'm ready to say yes now.
Yeah.
Oh my word. What an amazing, beautiful, heartfelt, gorgeous conversation. I am so grateful. Thank you. That was truly beautiful. I really appreciate you and what you have shared and you being here with me today. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad that you did reach out and invite me because I have learnt a lot and it's been lovely to kind of feel what it's like to be in real connection and conversation with you today. And happy birthday.
Thank you. And definitely do the whole 50 conversations thing. It is such a gift, truly. That it is such a beautiful gift to do this in so many ways. I can highly recommend it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So is there, before we wrap up, how can people, if anyone is interested in finding out more about you, I will definitely put it on the show notes, but what would be a good way to connect?
My website, which is martinecannon.com, so www.martinecannon.com, or my email is just my initials, mc@martinecannon.com.
Oh, okay. Well, I will put that on the show notes, but thank you so much.
Pleasure. Okay, take care.